Hey guys, it's Dominic. Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about plant classification, basically how people divide plants based on their characteristics. At the end of this video, I'll be going around and finding all these plants, but for now, let's just get into it. So plants can be separated into non-vascular plants and vascular plants. So let's start with the non-vascular plants. The plants in this group are mosses, liverworts, and hornworts. Non-vascular plants are characterized by being non-vascular, meaning they don't have xylem or phloem, which are the vascular tissues that move water and nutrients throughout the plant. They reproduce using spores, and they lack true stems, roots, and leaves. Like I said, they don't have vascular tissues, so they get their water from diffusion. The most common vascular plant is going to be moss. And by the way, they need water to reproduce. All right, now we're going to move on to vascular plants. And vascular plants do have the xylem and phloem. There's many types of vascular plants, so they have to be broken up again into vascular plants with seeds and vascular plants without seeds. So let's start with the vascular plants without seeds. These plants use spores to reproduce instead of seeds. And of course, since they're under vascular plants, they have vascular tissue, which is the xylem and phloem. Horsetails, club mosses, and ferns are in this group, with ferns being the most common. Alright guys, now let's move on to vascular plants with seeds. And this group is so big that it actually has to be divided again into two different groups, angiosperms and gymnosperms. And I promise these are the last two groups we're going to look at. Alright, let's talk about the first one, angiosperms. These are flowering plants that have seeds that are protected by fruit. And when I say fruit, I don't just mean like kiwis, pineapple, apples, things like that. When I say fruit, I'm talking about the ripened ovary. More on that later. The second group of vascular plants with seeds is the gymnosperms. The gymnosperms have seeds that aren't in fruit. They're generally going to be on the scales of cones, like pine cones. Many of the gymnosperms have leaves like needles, and they're evergreen. Many of them are. Alright guys, time for the fun part. Let's go find all these plants. I'm just gonna be walking to a park that's nearby my house, so I'll see you guys there. So just walking here, basically all I see is gymnosperms, okay? Like there's so many pine trees, spruce trees, basically anything that has a cone. Remember the seeds are gonna be in the cone. So if you see like a tree or something that has cones, then that's probably a gymnosperm. There's plenty of rocks around here that have moss on them. So there's just this rock behind me that has a bunch of moss on it. I'm gonna go check it out. All right, guys, again, mosses are in the group of non-vascular plants, along with liverworts and hornworts. They reproduce using spores, and obviously they're non-vascular, which means they don't have the vascular tissues. It's kind of interesting to think about, like this has no vascular tissue at all, but something like this does have vascular tissue, you know? All right, guys, I'm gonna try to find you guys a fern, probably a bigger one. I did see some smaller ones up there, but something kind of big so I can show you guys the story. All right, guys, update. I have been searching for quite a while, maybe 20 minutes. I wasn't able to find any big ferns for you, but I did find these other small ones that are just on this kind of rock formation here, so I'm just checking them out. When looking at a fern, you're gonna notice these cool leaves on the fern called fronds. These fronds look pretty cool when they open up because they open up out of a spiral shape, and when it's in that form, it's called a fiddlehead. Remember, these plants use spores to reproduce, and on the underside of the frond, there's gonna be what are called sori. A sorus is just one of those little bumps, sori for plural. One sorus is made up of a cluster of sporangia, and inside each sporangium, there are spores. I say all this to say, if you look at the underside of a frond, I used to think that those were the spores, but really, those are just sori. The spores are really teeny tiny. But anyways, that's one of the vascular plants without seeds, the most common one, the fern. All right, guys, I'm back at home now, and you may have noticed that I didn't talk about one of the plant types, which is the angiosperms. And to be honest, I did see a lot of angiosperms there. Basically, they're just like flowering plants, okay? And remember I said more on that later, right? Let me just go over fertilization really quick in plants. Obviously, angiosperms have many different parts. Basically, you have the male part of the angiosperm here called the stamen, and the tip of the stamen produces pollen grains that have male gametes in them. The female part of the plant is called the pistil or the carpel, and the base of it is called the ovary. Inside the ovary, there are structures called ovules that have the female gametes in them. This is very basic and there's other things going on, but basically a pollen grain from the tip of the male part of the plant lands on the tip of the female part of the plant, and then the sperm cell inside the pollen grain goes all the way down into the ovary. It makes its way to the ovule and then fertilizes one of the female gametes. Over time, the ovule will turn into the seed and the ovary will turn into the fruit. And then there you have it. There's a seed inside the ripened ovary, and the ripened ovary is a fruit. If you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. I have some links down in the description if you want to check them out, and I will see you guys later. Peace.